Mark, we're
Paul,
here.
did you know that not even Clayton Crane can make this suit look cool?
And that's saying something. That is
That's
really saying
saying a
something.
lot.
Exactly. We're going to get into that exactly that and more that happened in just a couple minutes right after this. So before we get started, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to leave us a comment and hit the notification bell so you're alerted whenever we upload new content. Whew, there, that's all taken care
We
of.
do that fast.
Um,
It's good.
yeah, exactly. I think
Yeah.
sometimes if I do it fast, if I have too much time to think about it, I'll mess it up. One of
No,
those
that's
things.
fair.
One of those. So, we are back with another DC Comics deep dive. We have two comics that we're looking at this week. We have Absolute Flash. This is issue number 3, and we have part 4 of the We Are Yesterday crossover between World's Finest and Justice League Unlimited. We're going to start with Absolute Flash number 3. Um, yeah, exactly. It's the old thing where, although it's not really a gorilla, but if you put a monkey on a cover, people will buy it type thing.
Yes,
Um,
it's a chimpanzee Grodd.
it- yeah, exactly. Very much your grandfather's garage, that's for sure. But we start with Barry running. I mean, with Wally running. Not surprising.
We start off by
Wally,
getting some context, right? Some backstory,
yeah,
some context, a little bit of bridging the gap. This has been a slightly intentionally disjointed story from issue 1 and 2, so that the reader is kind of in Barry's boots for this, between the accident at the lab, the rogues chasing him down, and him trying to figure out what's going on. We start connecting the dots and seeing some details here.
exactly. Connecting the dots is a great way to put it because we go through the beginning of the story. We go through a couple of what we call moments of connection for Wally,
Mhm.
and he starts off first with Barry Allen, the connection that he had with him, and we see exactly what has happened to Barry Allen as a result of what Wally has done, at least in his mind anyway, as a result of what he's done.
Yeah, we see the moment at the experiment where they both
Mm.
get hit with the lightning, and Wally says, "I'm freaking out. All I know to do is run." And when he runs, we see he takes off out of the lab. And I like to point out, like, he's not trailed by lightning. It's just these horizontal lines and stuff, which I think is pretty cool. It's what we've been seeing on all the covers and stuff. Just these lines that creates the streak of the Flash running
Exactly.
fast.
And we get a what is very much looks like a crisis like moment of Barry Allen. Oh, wrong one. There we go. There we go. Yeah, that's very. We've seen Barry like this in many a comic book. Him basically, disappearing, screaming "Help me" or whatever it happens to be. But Barry manages to get out to a farm. And he manages to get into a barn, and from there he just decides, you know what, he needs a rest, so he decides to kind of take a little nap there.
That's when the
Switch to
monkey
the
catches
Rogues.
up to him, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, we switched to the Rogues, who, if you remember, at the end of the last issue, they were going to deploy Grodd, who was we expected, when we first saw the name, we expected to have this huge gorilla, that would be akin to what we would see in the regular universe. And instead, we see that Grodd is this tiny little chimpanzee, kind of more like if you ever read the Why the Last Man, which is very reminiscent of this cover. When I look at this cover, I
Oh,
think of Why the Last Man.
I didn't notice that, but as soon as you said why, I'm like, dude, this is the same cover.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so we get we get a view of exactly how they're deploying Grodd. He ends up at the farm. Goes inside the barn where he finds Barry, um, and we see Barry kind of talking to him first, and then we get an ET moment of Boom.
of
Connection
that.
number 2.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
Wally recognizes this little monkey from the lab, and the monkey
mhm.
recognizes Wally from the lab. I don't know if he was supposed to ever be intimidating or useful for the rogues, but he goes right in, and him and Wally touch tips, and they have a moment of understanding between each other. They both kind of go into each other's heads, and they both kind of see each other's pasts. Grodd's got a sad past of being taken from the mom, the poacher kind of looking thing, and being experimented on, and Wally has a past of losing his mom and going to this research facility. So they all automatically, there's a bond between the two of them from a shared upbringing.
Exactly, and that's the third. So the second connection is between Grodd, and but that Wooly has is with Grodd. The third connection that both of them experience is with Mom. And so we see that, and but then we start to see that the two are actually, connecting with their thoughts as well. Grodd is very limited in his ability to speak. He speaks kind of just in single words, as opposed to being able to form any sentences. But he basically says, Wally, Grodd, same. So he's equating that the two of them are basically, have been, experimented on or whatever, or been made who they are as a result of experiments. And we basically see that the two of them, Grodd basically decides to partner with Barry after a rogue boomerang comes in and tries to kill them both,
Yeah, it comes into the barn, blows
because the
up,
rogues recognize that. Exactly.
and Wally
Go ahead.
immediately, like, he almost like he has a natural reaction when it looks like when he gets like angsty or his adrenaline goes up, the energy built up in him, whatever this version of the Speed Force is, it starts becoming uncontrollable, and he's ready just to run to let it out. And it's interesting because did you notice like how the I don't know, the entity of Barry is kind of trailing him when he's running, like
Mhm.
how we had that crisis moment. It's almost like I'm wondering if this entity, because when he's losing control and we're seeing this energy, it's manifesting the shape of a person. I'm wondering if it's
Mhm.
actually Barry that's inside of him, but he's flash as he has this energy building up in him, he's flashing back to dead Barry, and Grodd just kind of puts his finger on his head and is able to calm him down and get him back into control of himself as the rogues are pulling up on him. And Captain Boomerang has a couple boomerangs that come out and connect to his back where he's able to fly, which was super cool. And Wally says, "No more running," and just hauls off and cold clocks him, knocks a tooth out. And it was pretty cool because in that moment right after that, you see like a disembodied Speed Force entity or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So I'm really
And that is
wondering
in no
what
way that is in
catch.
no way you trying to bring Mission Impossible into this discussion, right?
No, it could happen at any moment though.
Exactly. Um, yeah, and then we basically see, Barry, like you said, we see Barry fighting back, and at
Wally,
the end,
Wally,
sorry, Wally, yeah, sorry,
yeah.
Wally fighting back, and we see, much to Mark's chagrin, by the end, he has almost come to accepted his plight, and he has donned the costume of the new Flash
It's
right
important to
there.
put out. He went back to the cave to where the rotted corpse
Mhm.
of Barry Allen is and took this off of a disgusting decomposing corpse and put it on without washing it. I want to put that out there. Not only does this costume suck, it makes no sense that you would put this on your body. None.
Exactly. So he has questionable hygiene on top of everything else, is what you're saying.
Oh, it's not questionable. We know it's bad.
Yeah, and that's where we are. Halfway through the first story arc, Wally finally dons the costume, and we'll see where we go from here. And Buddy has, you know, again, much like Why the Last Man, he has a companion monkey chimpanzee with him. So we'll see
Yeah, I
where it
gotta
goes
say
from
these
there. So,
3 issues truly felt like a 3 issue origin arc. Like
mhm.
obviously the story's gonna build from here, but this felt like a 3 issue origin. Like if you don't feel like you got enough of the first one, it's because they structured this to be 3 issues to get us from introduction of the character to in the suit running, and that's where we're at now. So I'll be honest with you, I like this issue a whole lot. Out of the 3 that we've gotten so far, this was my favorite one. It gave us a lot more information, but we still have a lot more to discover and explore. And the action sequences were fantastic in it. The connection with Rod and him and the flashbacks were emotional. It was a good issue.
Yeah, and I love the new take on Grodd too. So
Yeah. There's always something, what they thought about? Like, oh man, this little baby Yoda's a hit, and like a little
mhm.
baby kaiju coming and stuff. Like, it's always good to have these cute little animal creatures as companion. They resonate with a large number of people, and it worked in
Exactly.
this
What
as
can we do?
well.
Let's take the one of his biggest baddest. Exactly. Um, on in the regular universe or the original universe, we have this is absolute world's it's absolute. It's Batman Superman World's Finest number 39. This is part 4 of the We Are Yesterday. Yeah, with lots of things. We got the Joker Who Laughs. We got Ultraman. We got oh man, we got all sorts of people. Um, we got lots of stuff going on in this issue as well. If you recall, at the end of the last issue of this story arc, which was the World's Finest annual, it ended with Robin from the past coming into the present, and we see Batman looking at both Robin and Nightwing on the Watchtower in Justice League Unlimited, in the Justice League Unlimited Watchtower.
Yeah, this
Um,
one's going to get a little bit convoluted to recap
yeah,
because we're about to time hop between time eras and characters every other page. This one was wild, but it was nonstop
exactly.
motion and
Uh,
action, though.
yeah, it really was. Clayton Henny doing the art again. Mark Waid writing because he's the writer for both Justice League Unlimited and World's Finest. We had some kind of cool dialogue between the Dick Grayson Robin and the Dick Grayson Nightwing, including things like like saying like may I add that he could actually use a haircut when he references Nightwing. Um,
I
but
like
we
when they say the
basically
word
get a lot of
Robins. When they say the
yeah.
word Robins, he's like, "Wait, how many of me are there?"
Yeah, exactly, exactly. We see right at the beginning as we come up, and basically what would be the next panel from the end of the last issue, and Superman comes in, and that's like you said. The first thing he says is, "Wait, which Robin are you?" And that's when Robin says, "How many are you?" And he basically tells him that there's obviously some things going on with time. We see some things, a back look through some of the different parts of time again with the Joker Who Laughs, Ultraman, Pariah, all of those, Superman Blue, which I'm sure you were happy to see. Um,
Always.
always a good thing when you can see Superman Blue, right?
Hmm.
I think it froze. No, there we go. Yep, there we go. All right. Um, and they come up with a team, and just as they're about to, as Superman and Batman are talking about what's going to happen, Batman cautions the two Dick Graysons not to touch, but not before they can actually shake hands. And guess what? People disappear through time, which will be a common theme through this issue, as Marcus said. So
Then,
yeah, exactly. Um, so we flash back to the original satellite era of the Justice League, which I'll never forget is 22,300 miles above Earth. I will never forget that because that was what they would always put at the very in the panel whenever they showed the outside shot of the Justice League satellite. So 22,300 miles above Earth, and we see um, we get we see that they're there. Superman some of but we flash back to the present after that, and we have Superwoman, who is flying around with Superman and Batman and Robin, um, but basically says uh, she has to go, um, and it tells Superman that he has to go find his son. And this Superman, who is the one that does not have a son yet, says, "Wait a second, I have a son." Um, so again, it's a little bit disjointing to figure out which Superman we're looking at and in which time period, and which Batman and things like that. But we clearly are. This is the Superman from the past who is now in the present, who is being told that he has a son, and that kind of throws him. So, and then we talk about the Watchtower, and he's kind of freaked out, and Robin is trying to bring him back, saying, you know what, we've got the Legion of Doom we got to deal with. Don't worry about all these other things. We have to defeat the Legion of Doom first.
And from where they're standing, Superman peers out, uses supervision, finds Sinestro and the Scarecrow doing some cockamamie stuff, and they take off to stop them.
Right. We first see them go after Sinestro and Scarecrow. If you recall, the Legion of Doom has broken off into different teams, and gone after different time devices to try to help them control time and everything. And so we see Superman going after them. The Scarecrow shoots his Scarecrow gas. Superman says that's not gonna affect me, and Scarecrow says, well, it will if I've somehow mixed in kryptonite with it, which he has. And we see Batman and Robin go in and take on Sinestro. They end up in a trophy room that has all these different artifacts there. Batman and Robin say, basically, you know what, we're not, well, first they say, why couldn't we have ended up in the gift shop? But instead, they end up in this trophy room. They say, you know what, we're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to, these are just trophies, these aren't real things. And Sinestro says, yeah, well, they are when I use my ring, to control them as well.
Yeah, they're just jumping around fighting for their life, realizing how serious this threat is. And that's when we bounce to the past with our characters from the future. We just went from the characters from the past and the future. Now we're going from the characters in the future in the past. It gets convoluted. But they go to the Batcave, Nightwing, Superman,
right,
and Batman, where they run into Alfred. So we get a very heartfelt moment where Bruce and Dick are having to hold back everything in them to crack and cry and just hug this man and not let on that anything's out of the norm. And Superman's kind of telling him to be careful, and just even has to put his hand out and grab Batman's arm to stop him. And Superman gives him the, hey friend, blah, blah, blah. We'll see you later, Alfred. Okay, bye.
Yeah, again, it's a brief moment, but like you said, it's definitely the emotional beat of the entire issue. With that flashback to the present with the past, Superman, Robin, and Batman, who are still fighting Sinestro. Superman finally decides that, you know what, he goes, it's basically been right in front of me the whole time how he can do this. We have a Legion of Doom. I don't know why I didn't think of the Legion of Superheroes. They have their time bubble to try to go back into the past from where they are, and Scarecrow moves to do some things. He shoots Superman again. This time he says. Then Superman says, "Well, you know what? I can't believe he went with the old thing where he basically tried to show me that I'm dead, not knowing that is actually his future coming up." Because he hasn't experienced that yet. Superman takes the Scarecrow and whisks him away. Then he goes and he delivers one shot to Sinestro to defeat him, and we find Sinestro reaching for the one time device that he has, and he shoots basically the past Superman, Batman, and Robin. They basically fall through time. Superman says, when they wake up, where are we? Batman says, let's go with are we? Come on, why can't I? There we go. Okay, there we go. Yep. And that's where we end. The three of them, we don't know where they are. We'll find out in the next issue, but basically they are stranded somewhere. And that will occur in the next Justice League Unlimited issue coming out this week.
So as confusing as this one gets, ultimately, it's just a fun fight between both teams of Superman, Batman, and Robin in opposite times as each other, dealing with some criminals, just to result in them being thrown through time and us having to figure out where and when they are in the next issue.
Exactly. It was a fun issue. It was again, and Interestingly enough, it was just because this is World's Finest, it was focused on, Superman and Batman for the most part. So I'm sure we'll get more of the Justice League Unlimited. So the next two, the the fifth and sixth installments will be in just the next two Justice League Unlimited issues, and that's I'm sure we'll get the whole Justice League battling the Legion of Doom in those. So kind of cool that it kind of stayed with the focus of the issue too. It didn't have the entire, even though it was a crossover between Justice League Unlimited and Batman Superman World's Finest, it did manage to focus on who are the main characters of that particular title. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, it gets a little
But yeah,
convoluted. They kind of lean a little too much into the
it really
back and
does.
forth. It could service it a lot more by a little bit better structure, or just having stuck with just our World's Finest characters for this issue, and maybe had an epilogue with just the Alfred and Time Bubble all together, page by page, at the back end of it or something. That would have made the reading experience a whole lot easier.
It does. It is very jarring to try to read them because you have to try to figure out who they are, because there's no delineation between costumes or anything too. They're wearing the exact same costumes no matter what
You just have to look for the Robin. You have to look for the Robin in each one.
Yeah, exactly. Find the Robin, know the time frame. Is basically what we're talking about here. So, but that's going to be it for this edition of DC Comics Deep Dive. I am Paul. He is Mark.
But we are Legion.
Subscribe, hit the notification bell, comment, and like. Thank you very much.